Welcome to the fastest stuff in town. Today on Masechtas Bava Kamadaf Kuf Zayin. We're going to begin on the bottom of Kuf Vav Amud Beis, about 12 lines from the bottom. So you have someone that has a lost object, and when approached, he claims that it was stolen. So in that situation, Misham Teshel Mikefel. Now, as we know, when you're turning Tanas Ganam, just like Ganeva, you do have to pay kefil. Not just if you steal, but also if you have an object, like a pikadon, and you claim it was stolen, you have to pay kefil. If you're turning Tanas Avad, if you claim that it was lost, that's different. Here it's turning Tanas Ganam. If you claim that it was stolen by an object that was lost. Misham Teshel Mikefel, my time, I'll call Aveda Sheyomar. So this is all Maruba, as we saw in yesterday's daf. He says, one second, the pasuk says, ish, when a person gives enesinas katan klum, we know that the giving of a katan is nothing, says Rashi, because it says ish, to exclude a katan. Danish boyin al tainis nesinasai, ve'in boyin li de kefa al yadai, the hacha kefel. Because there's a chiv of kefil, so there's not shaykh that you're going to have to pay that based on a katan. And so ein nesin is katan klum. Mainly ella shnasa kashu katan. I don't understand that if you gave it to this person while you were a katan, but tava kashu katan, and now you're still a katan asking for it back, that it doesn't work. Nasa kashu katan, but tava kashu gadol manayin. How do we know also in that situation there's no din kefil? Talmud Amar. You have to be an adult at the time of the giving and the claiming. So therefore, if you were a katan, even though now you're a gadol, still there's no din kefil. Now, v'im isa, so tahavinami ka'aveda, it should be no different than claiming that it was a lost object. And therefore, you should be chayiv kefil. Because, okay, fine, you gave him when you were a katan, but now he's a gadol, and you're saying, could I please have this back? Oh, no. What do you mean, no, right? How is it any different than being Tantanas Gana of Baveda? If you say that it was stolen, it's like a lost object. If you tell me that you're Chayiv Kefil there, so then you should be Chayiv Kefil here also. So we're talking about a situation where the Baal Bias had consumed it already while this guy was still a katan. It wasn't around at the time he was a gadol. So you're saying that just like being Tantanas Gana Baveda, you can be Chayiv Kefil, so too when it comes over here that he could get Kefil if it's still around from the time that he was a gadol. So why do we mention a totally different case? Listening, what you should say instead, you should say that the achila actually has to still be around at the time of the tviyah. Okay, fine. Fine. That's what it'll say. It's still, you cannot compare the two. It's possible that when it comes to a katan and then he becomes a gadol, he's still going to be potter. Why? From kefil. What do you mean? Why is it like a veda? Because it was given over to him while he was a katan, while he was not a ben das. So therefore, he's not going to be chayiv in kefil. Mashen came when it comes to turning tanas gana baveda, it was given over as a ben das. So it's not the same thing. When a person claims that it was stolen when you were watching something, so we know you do have to pay kaifer. You have to pay kefil rather after you make a shvua. This is an unbelievable statement. You actually have to be involved in moedim mixas ataina. That moedim mixas typically is, I say you owe me $100, I lend you $100. And he said, no, I paid you back $50. I only owe you another $50. So you have to be at a din deraisa moedim mixas ataina. They have to make a shua deraisa. So we're saying also over here, when it comes to Taintanas Gana, maybe Kadam, which is necessary for this person to have to make a shvua, it's only when he at least admitted to half. It's not that he was kaifer but koil. So my time, because the pasuk has kihuzeh, says Rashi, Hainu Haidim Mixas. Parshas Taintanas Ganav Ksiv. That parsha over there is talking about the case of Taintanas Ganav. So it's hard. This is a really big chiddush here, that the whole din of being chayiv kefil by taintanas ganav after you make a shvua b'bikadain is dafke for moed b'mixus. Upligid Rav Chibar Yosef. This actually is a machlokas. As the Pashup shot, we always thought you just completely deny it flat out. And this is where Rav Chibar Bar Yosef disagrees. Then Rav Chibar Yosef, as we continue to Kuf Zayin Amud Aleph, as we endeavor upon a very famous sugya. I'll show you how famous it is in a second, as we see in Tosos. Don't worry, not the big one. Irav Parshus Kasav Khan. What does that mean? Pasuk Shehu Me Parsha Cheres Nisar Bezu Shenimim Kaimoi. So sometimes the Torah is written in a way that it could be written a little bit mixy, and that the pasuk is actually not going on the section. So even though it's true, the pasuk is technically talking about Tantanas Ganav, that doesn't mean necessarily that is how we're interpreting it, that it's dafka b'moedim b'mixas ataina is when you'll be chayav kefil. Because v'chiksiv ki hu zeh, when it says the words ki hu zeh, you're right, it is talking in the parsha technically of Tantanas Ganav, but it's really milvahu dechsiv. It's talking about just a plain out loan. It's not talking about where someone gave you an object that's pikadon to watch, and then they say, can I have it back? You say it was stolen, and you make a shvua. Even though it seems like the simple reading of the psukim is what it's talking about, but really, Ir Parshas Kasav Khan. And if you're interested, you can see this long Tosas discussing this. But it's shtickle manna why we would ever say Ir Parshas Kasav Khan, because it seems, even though Moed Mixas Atayna by Tantanas Ganav seems to be a huge chiddush, but to say Ir Parsha also is a shtickle daichek too. But nonetheless, that's what we're saying. So Ma'ishna Milva. So why by Milva? Why by alone is it necessary to make a shvua deraisa when we're dealing with only moedim and mixas, but not by kafir b'kol? If you deny the whole thing straight out, there's no chiyuv deraisa of making a shvua. We do have a chiyuv shvua derabbanan called a shvuas heses that must be made. However, that's not a chiyuv deraisa. So why by moedim mixas is we're saying ki huzeh? This pasuk is talking about a loan. So Diyama Rabbi, it's a very famous Gemara. You can see it's a shas sugi. It's written all over the place. So why do you have to make a shua in this case? Chazaka. Ein adam meis pandim b'nei bal chayva. Can you imagine? Someone does you a favor. You're going to be meis pandim to them. You're going to show them disrespect and deny the whole thing. No, a person's not going to be meis pandim. Guy did you a favor. You're not going to have the brazenness to flat out lie to his face. The truth is, in your kishkas, you would love to deny the entire thing, but you can't, because you're a human being. You have a soul. So now you have no choice. You have to admit. But the truth is, he didn't want to admit to anything. Now the kuli boy, delay. Now that we understand that you're not going to lie to this guy, so what are you going to do? There's a lot of money he's asking for, which you really do owe him. So v'hai de kafrle b'miksa. So why did I deny 50 of the 100? It's not that I'm trying to lie to him, and not because I should be considered like a goslin. It's savar. I rationalized and said imodina le b'kulhe tavle b'kulhe. If I say, yeah, I owe you the 100, he's going to say, okay, give it to me now. But that's a lot of money to come up with right now. Therefore, ishtamitli meho hashta dahavi lizuza parana. So basically, I'm just trying to push him off a little bit until I come up with the full amount of money, and then I'll pay him back later. So therefore, the truth is, I'm not being dishonest so much, but I'm rationalizing in my mind so that I'll be able to end up paying him later. Because if I tell him the truth and I owe you the full 100, the next thing Beis Din's going to immediately do is say, give him the money. But we're not going to, I don't want to do that, because that's a lot of money. So therefore, I'll just deny half of it. Hilkach, therefore, since the Torah understands the mindset of a healthy human being, there are places a shua upon him to force him to admit to the whole thing, because he's really a decent guy. So once he knows there's a chiv shua deraisa, he's not going to lie and make a shua deraisa. It's by a loan, because alone the guy did you a huge favor. By a pikadon, Says Rashi, in Kantova, Pumfakert, I did him a favor. I was his security guard, if you will. I was watching this item. He didn't pay me a penny, and I did this great favor for him. So when it comes to a pikadon, a person will be mei. Says Rashi Hilkach. I feel kafir b'kulei ram rachman shualei. Very interesting. So when it comes to b'tain tanisgana pikadon, so the din is that you have to make a shua even when it comes to being kafir b'kol. The only time we make, because a person will be meiz, well, there's no question I'll be meiz. I'll just say I owe you nothing, and therefore that's the reason why we require shua. Question 9. Ma'ishna kafir hakoyel b'bikadon dechayev shua. Mikayfer hakoyel b'milva the patim shvua. The milva chazake nadameis bifnei mishi asoloi toiva lichbor hakoyel mashkein b'bikadan hilkach afil kafar ram rachman shvua lehi. Okay. Weiter. Tani Rami Bar Chama. Arba Shaimrim. When it comes to the 4 Shaimrim, as we continue to Kuf Zayin Bebeis, Srichin Kfir b'mixas v'hoidel b'mixas. Here we go again. So this is, before it was Rav Chia bar Abba, now this is Rami Bar Chama. He says, when it comes to the 4 Shaimrim of the Shemachinim, Shemisachar, the Seicher, and the Shayel, they need to deny half and admit to half. Ve'elhein, okay, it says Shemachinim, V'Shayel, Noisi Sachar, V'Seicher. All of them have to be Moed Mixas. What does that mean? It says Rashi, Kaidim she is Chayvu Shvu. Oh, by the way, let's see this Taisus. Just an unbelievable Taisus, the very bottom Taisus. Chazaka edam me'ez. Hakol maforish rikam kaimais. Unbelievable Taisus. It's all been explained in many places. I'm not doing it again. Okay? Taisus like, I just spent this whole Amud doing a massive Taisus. If you want to learn more about that line, look it up in another place in Shas. It's been dealt with many times. Great Taisus. Anyway, so see this top Rashi. Kaidim she is chayvu shvua. Before he has to make a shvua, he has to at least admit to half and deny half. Ve'im nishvu, if he makes a shvua b'loy kfira, v'hoido, without, again, admitting to half and denying half, en shvuasu shel shemachinim klum, it's nothing. V'loy michayav to kefel. Therefore, he's not going to be chayav kefel. Uda Rabbi bar Chama polig, Rabbi Chia bar Yosef. And obviously, again, this is a machlokas. But again, we see according to this, when it comes to a shomer, so a person, you can't say about watching an ox, but let's say I was watching ichves, I was watching, again, it could be something which you can split. I was watching 2 bundles of wheat, two kav of barley, and I say, oh yeah, I was actually only watching one. The other one, I don't know what you're talking about. So only there is there a chiyuv, the right chiyuv shvua. Okay, Omer Rabba, my time to Rabbi Bar Chama. Where did he come up with this? So Shemachina behediksiv. It says explicitly when you are watching something for free, the ksib it's written ki hu zeh. It says the same lashon of ki hu zeh. So the ki hu zeh, therefore, as we said before, is talking about being moed mimixus. We learn on Gzer Shava. You can understand they're both watchmen. One's being paid, one's not. But we learn on Gzer Shava. Shayel, a borrower. V'chi yishal, when it says the vav is moisav al in rishain. So the vav is a connector. Conjunction. Seicher, when it comes to a renter, there's no psukim over there that we can connect. But the truth is, the Seicha, the renter, there's a machlokas if he's more like a Shemachinim or like a Shemasachar. But either way, we really learned out that a Shemasachar and Shemachinim is only going to be Mechuyev and Ashua, Dafku and the Hoidim and Mixas. And that's all it says. Doesn't even argue, doesn't say anything else. That's it. Okay, weiter. Which is we said before. You have an object, it's not lost. You have an object that someone gave to you, and you claim, yes, I know you had a bikadon by me in my house, but someone came into my house and stole it. And of course, you have to make a shvua, and if you end up being hoida, so then that's the chiv kefil. So, einu chayiv ad shishlach bo yad. It's only if you're shishlach bo yad, which means you did some type of work with it. Says Rashi, the nimsa Russia. that you're really wicked. You're so evil that you even use it. Look at the Rashi before that. You used it before the shvua. You didn't work with it. So my time, Pasuk says that you went to the Beis Din. So to say again, to see that he did not do work with it, which is mashma only if he did work with it would he be chayiv. Remember the b'shlach bayad askinan. The shvua is about him not working with the animal. We're talking about if it's literally standing by the trough. So says Rashi, it's standing by the trough. It's talking about where you did not do work with it. That's when you're chayiv kefil. You're telling me only when you did not do work with it, you're chayiv kefil. Is that what it means? However, if you actually did work with this animal before the shvua, it's like you were koine like a gazlan, and therefore you take upon yourself these different dinim as a gazlan now. Maybe it means even if you work with it. It's like, what does it mean that you didn't work with it? It means dafka. If you it's totally disagreeing apparently. One says it has to be you worked with it before the shvua. Here it's saying you didn't work with it. It was omedes alavusa. Now, does that mean only if you didn't do work with it is before the shvua, or even if you did work with it? It's a good question. I'd never heard the answer to this. However, something similar which we could perhaps draw a connection to, I did here. Person makes a condition regarding a person who says rather that this item was lost. Venishba. Now, by making a shvua, in that case, you would be potter. The chazv is ganav, and then afterwards you kind of change your mind and say, no, it wasn't lost, it was stolen. Venishba. Now you make a second shvua. Now you don't know this guy. What is he talking about? At first said it was lost. Makes a shvua, and then he makes a shvua that was stolen. Makes a shvua. Uva edim, and then witnesses come potter. So interestingly enough, he's going to be potter from kefel. Now here's the deal. We know that if you are tantanas ganav v'nishba, you're chayav kefel. But the first time he was tantanas avad, and tantanas avad, you are potter from kefel. So even though his second statement would require him to pay kefel, my time lamishum dekana b'shvurishayna. The fact that he made the first shvua, so he kind of is now chayav, says Rashi, was chayav b'oinsin. Now because of that, he's chayav in oinsin. As we saw previously, hakayfer b'pikadayin, of a person, which is a great chiddush of Rav Sheshis, even if he didn't make a shvua yet, all he did was deny the pikadayin by him, naslav gazlan. He immediately becomes a gazlan, even before the shvua. Kafil shol b'shblo shvua, as it says. Behecha d'ishtaba. He makes a shvua, kol shekain d'kol yamamaydu. Everyone holds, certainly he's like a gazlan once he makes a shvua. Alma. Kivan dekamole b'rshusei ki kafar. So since now it's in his reshus, when he denies it the second time, didei kafar, he's denying that which is his. So he doesn't have to pay kefil. What do you mean? He was trying to tell us but he was already kind of it to as a gazlan. So therefore, he no longer has the dinim of a shimer, and therefore, because of that, now that he's the second time he's trying to tell us ganav, he doesn't pay kefil. V'hu adin, says Rashi, l'shleach bayad, when it comes to doing work. Kivan depshita one beperek hamafkid. The kamal lebershus say that when you do work in it, it's like you're in your reshus. Suma chayv'lek kefil. So we're going to derive from here that it's dafka that you didn't do work. But if you did do work, then Taki, you're right, you would not be chayv kefil. Amalei lo. So we end up saying over there, it's not because it's in his reshus, but because he just left the status of being a shomer in his shvua. And says Rashi, Ushvua achrayna zu lav shvuas hadayanim hu l'chayvu kefil. there's no longer a din of Tain Tanas Gana by Shuas Hadayanim. So therefore, there's just a practicality. If he was Tain Tanas Avad, he makes a Shvua. So therefore, by doing that, he no longer is no longer the category of Shuas Hadayanim, because he was forced by Beis Din to make one Shvua, and he did that. And then he makes a second Shvua, so that second Shvua is not anything which will hold him accountable to B'chayev Kefil. Says Rashi, Kivan de Nishba, but Chilo Shuvlo Hayim Mechuyev Shvua Ba'alim. He already made one Shvua, and even though it may not have been correct, but the Shvua he said of being Tain Tanas Avad will pater someone from Kefil. So now the second Shvua he makes, he doesn't really mean anything, because it's not a Shvuas Hadayanim. It's not a Shvua which was basically enforced by the courts, because it's almost like double jeopardy. You can't force a person to make a second Shvua. He did it on his own accord. So therefore, even though the Shvua that he made would be Mechayev a person typically to Mechayev Kefil, over here he won't, because he already made the first Shvua. Therefore, it's not a Raya. A person who claims that was lost, which the din is when you make a shvua, you're pater, the nishba, and you swear to that effect. The husband Tantanas Geneva nishba who ba'edim pater. Why? So again, it's not a din of shuas hadayanim. Okay, let's look at question 10. Tantanas aveda b'bikadain v'nishba. So first it was Aveda, and then you return to Geneva, Uva Adim Patam Minakefel. So what's the reason? So either the Bishuri Shaina Kanu, he was acquired it, or the Yatsit, and therefore we can maybe learn out from here that if you did work with the animal by Shlich Hashad, then you would actually be kind, and therefore it would be no chiv. Or the Yotzi de Habalam Beshuri Shain of Enishpoin Hashnia Shulas Nadayanim. Okay. Weiter. Amrav Sheshes Hatain Tanis Gana Bibikadain. So again, when it comes to someone says, give me my Pikadon that's by you, you know what? It got lost. It got stolen, I'm sorry. Tain Tanis Ganav. Tain Tanis Ganav. Okay. So Tain Tanis Ganav is very different as opposed to what I just said, which was a mistake. Tain Tanis Ganav, you will be Chayiv Kefil. However, if you do work with it, then potter, right? Which is actually the opposite of Rav Chiya bar Yosef. So my time, that you go to the courts, if you did work, then you would be potter with it. So it's very interesting. It's the opposite var. Either so one sheet that says it has to be that you're only chayav if you did work. The other one here says no, only if you didn't do work. And again, it was in the Boy Delishito. We didn't know the second sheet that we saw toward the top of this Amud, whether it's Dafka when it's Oimenes Alavuso and it's didn't do Malacha, and Kol Shekain with Malacha, we're not sure. Normally, Rab Nachman, V'Sholosh Shvuos, when it came to 3 different Shvuos, Mashbian Oiso, there's a Chi of Shvua. 1, Shvua Shula Peshati Ba. We have to make a Shvua that I was not negligent in it. Shvua Shula Shalachti Ba Yad. A Shvua that I did not do work. Shvua She'eni Rishusi. A Shvua that's no longer my domain. My love, Shvua Shula Shalachti Ba Yad. Seemingly you're making the same type of shua. I promise you it is not in my rishus. Mashma Kimegalia Milsa the East Rishusi. Once it turns out your lying was in your rishus, chayev. So Av Shua Shul Shalachti Bayad. I swear I didn't do work, which is Mashma Kimegalia Milsa the Shalach Bayad chayev. If it turns out that you did work with it, you're chayev. That's what it sounds like. So what are you talking about? If you do work, you're potter. No. Based on linking the 3 shuos together, it sounds quite clear that this is saying that, no, I didn't do any work with it, which is mashma. If you did do work with it, that's when you're chayav. So Amalei lo. Shvuah shlo shalachti b'yad duma dil shloi pashati. But I wasn't negligent. Ma shvuah shlo pashati, but I was not negligent. Ki megali milsa the pasha ba potter mikefel. However, if it turns out I was negligent in it, right, and it got stolen, I'll be potter from kefil. Why will I be potter from kefil? Says Rashi, because he himself didn't steal it. You also be potter, says Rashi. Even if it's still by you. Okay. Okay. So anytime that there's a chiyuv of paying kefil, are you potter from chaimish? Because as we saw in Perek Meruba, Rashi brings down Mammon Shein Mishtalim B'Roish Deika Kefel B'Hadei. It's not just the Roish. The Roish is the Karen, the principle. But if you have a Chiv Kefel in Moisav Chaimish, so we saw before that there are different shitas, but according to that which is quoted, that if there's a Chiv Karen, there's Karen Chaimish, you have to pay an extra fifth. However, if it's Kefel, you don't pay the Chaimish. So let's see the question. Anytime there's a chiyuv kefil, is it true you're patur from chaimish or dilma? Shvua hamachayav to kefil. When it comes to making a shvua that you're chayav kefil, patartim in a chaimish, hechidami. When would that be the case? Is it by a shvua? So says hechidami. Says Rashi Chomer, Lamai nafkamina. Kigan shetan is ganav. What's the difference? Kigan shetan is ganav. So you claim that it was stolen, which normally would be chayav kefil. V'nishma, you swear to that. V'chaz v'tantonis avad v'nishma. Now the second taina, you would not be chayav kefil. The first one, you would be chayav kefil. As we continue to kuf ches amud alf. Uva edim akamaisa. Witnesses come regarding the first, and therefore you should certainly be chayav on the kefil, and then v'hoida abas raisa. And they admit on the second one that it was lost. So my mama in the mechayavtu kefel paitrum in hachaimish. So how do we understand this? Mama in the mechayavtu kefel paitrum in hachaimish. Anytime there's a chayav kefel, you're paitrum hachaimish. Vaha echayav le ule kefela. You're already chayav kefel, and therefore there's not going to be any din chaimish. O dilma shvua the mechayavtu kefel patartum in hachaimish. The shvua, which is chayav kefil, you're part from chaimish. The hashvud basraisa, but the second shvua, tantonos avad hoyel doloika mechayav lekefela. There's no din kefil to chayav chumsha. Maybe you should be chayav chaimish on that. And we probably should have stopped before that because we're not going to see the answer, which is going to keep going down further. Okay, let's stop here. Let's look at question 11. We'll see 11 next time, but. We're gonna stop by Boy Rami Barchama. We'll see that tomorrow's daf. We'll see the kasha again. Question TA5. Tantan is gonna v'nishba. V'chazal tanos avad v'nishba. V'edim akamais v'hada basraisa. Mahadin l'inun chaimish u'maskana mastadim. Okay, we'll see that tomorrow. So I guess there was no questions on that. Question TB6. Ma'ishna kaifer akol b'bikadayin dechayiv shvua mekaifer akol b'milvah patim shvua. It's exactly the same as question 9. This is TB6. Hope Zayin and Aleph. All right. B'milvah yachal loimer ishtamute v'in anameis panav lifnei balchayiv. B'bikadayin meiz u'meiz. Matayu koliyama machna habalam shomer es a kefil. Okay. Rabbi Gibber. Mi'acher diafilu ba'aveda afav she'in kan mafkid amrinin b'tarntan is gun of chayiv shvua u'masham kefel im kein hech yiskin hadin de'ein ishboyin al tfias katan afav pi shehigdil he got the katan grew up v'loy loy tayin b'mafkid klal kadei l'shiyishba. So understand, if we say that a katan is going to be pater, right? If the katan gives it to you, even if he becomes a gadol, so the din still is. This is on Kavavim Bebeis, that he's pater. Then how come by the case of Tarntan is going to be aveda, you have to pay kefil? So there's two answers. We say like this: rather switch achil of tvia. Came at the same time, only then you're chayav. However, if you were a katan at the time of the chila, you are pater. Hachi hashta. By Aveda, it was from a bendas, but here a katan is not a bendas or a potter. Ezedin Leiman Rav Chia Bar Yosef Meklal Be'erev Parshas Kasav Khan, that the pasuk of Kihuzeh is going only on the milva, that only chayiv when you're moed a mixas sataina, but if you're kaifer bakol, you're potter. But by pikadon, even if you're kaifer hakol, you're still chayiv. Beautiful. Ezedin Mashmiel Lanu Rabbi Yochanan Ba'omer Ba'medes Al Vusa Shanu. You only say you're chayiv on tain tanas ganav pikadon when you did a work with it. The object I hold, I put in parentheses, even when no work is done with the object, you are chayiv or still chayiv. Mahen gimel shvuos shnishboyin lo b'shem rechinam atan nignavti. What are the three tainas? Shloi pashati, shene b'shusi, that I didn't do any work with it. Ma nafkemi edman sad b'mamin mechayvu kefil poitim and chaimish adkan.